Chase Young, man, this dude has been discussed in a lot of trade rumors over the course of this offseason. Commanders fans, I don't really think they're ready to move on from Chase Young, but it seems like this fan base is more 70-30 when it comes to deciding if Chase Young should be in Washington. I think about 70% of the Washington Commanders fan base feels like he should stay on the team and he shouldn't be traded, at least right now at this part of the offseason. Maybe if you go into this year and Chase Young still doesn't perform all that well, maybe you think about moving him at the trade deadline. And I think 30% of the Commanders fan base feels like they should move on from Chase Young. He's missed a good amount of games due to that ACL injury that he suffered late during the second half of the 2021 season. There was a report that came out saying that the Commanders are opening to listen to trade offers for Chase Young. Albert Breer of Monday Morning QB on Tuesday wrote that teams coming out of the spring thinking they need more help may trade calls or may reach out for trying to inquire about trading for Chase Young. It seems unlikely that Washington would move on from him ahead of a must-win year, but I know they would be opening to listen to offers. Now, me personally, if you were to ask me if I think the Commanders should trade Chase Young, I'm going to tell you hell no. Even though you did turn down his fifth-year option, it was pretty obvious why you ended up opting to decline that. And Chase Young doesn't really have too much of a problem with it. You want him to come back and prove that he is the player that he once was when you drafted him second overall a couple of drafts ago. And his rookie season was really impressive. He had a really incredible rookie season. This guy emerged as a team leader really early on during his stint with the Commanders. And I really feel like the talent still is there with Chase Young. It's just that he hasn't really had the opportunity to show it on the field because he still has been trying to get back from that ACL injury. A lot of players rehab from ACL injuries at a different rate. Some players can come back and return to form. For others, it takes them a while to get back into football shape. ACL injuries aren't really the easiest to come back from. And for the people who are harping on how many games he's missed, I mean, duh, the dude is coming off an ACL injury. Of course he's going to miss a significant amount of time. It's not like you just tear your ACL and then you're right back the following month. Like, it's a process in this thing. And when he came back last season, he only appeared in 3 games for Washington. He didn't really get a significant amount of snaps due to the fact that Washington was trying to ease him back into it. They wanted him to somewhat get back into football shape. And they didn't want to rush him too soon, because if you rush him too soon, he could end up getting re-injured. So this is something that they had to be patient with. But if you're on the 30% of Commanders fans who feel like Washington should move on, I feel like you're being a little bit too impatient. I feel like you're trying to rush the guy and not really taking into account the significance of the injury that he suffered. ACL injuries, everybody rehabs, everybody recovers at a different rate when it comes to those kind of injuries. It's just not like you can put Chase Young right back out there and expect this guy just to automatically bounce back. Sometimes it takes players a little bit of time to get back into that form. Chase Young still is super talented. I don't have any questions about if the talent is there. This guy still is an incredible athlete. He's a freakish pass rusher. And plus, you turn down his 5th-year option. I mean, the dude ends up not performing. I don't think that you're going to have too much leverage when it comes to trying to trade Chase Young, because I think that regardless of who you trade with, you're going to get fleeced in any trade for Chase Young. Like, are you actually going to be able to get a first-round pick if you were to trade Chase Young, considering the fact that he's pretty much a 1-year rental? He's coming off a significant injury, tearing his ACL. And plus, he hasn't really played in a significant amount of games, so there's still a lot of questions about, is this going to be the same player that he once was when he was drafted 2nd overall? And with those factors coming into play, you're not going to be able to get a high draft pick for him. At best, you probably get a 2nd-round pick in exchange for him. But if you're expecting to get a huge haul in return for Chase Young, I think you're kind of being a little bit delusional. Now, if this dude had played all of last season and he performed at a really good level, it just wasn't an elite level, then you probably could get a little bit more return for him. But it's not like this dude is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL right now. Right now, the jury is still out on Chase Young. And with that risk coming into play, I don't think there's going to be any teams at all that are going to want to risk a first round pick on a guy who you're really just banking on potential with. Because that's pretty much what you're doing if you go out and you trade for Chase Young. There are Chicago Bears fans who want Chase Young. Houston Texans fans want Chase Young. Of course, the majority of NFL teams out there are going to reach out to see what you want in return for Chase Young. But if you were to respond to one of those teams, let's say we get the Houston Texans on the phone, or you get Ryan Poles on the phone and he hits up Washington and he's like, hey, bro, like, what's up with Chase Young? What y'all want for him? Oh, we want a first round pick for him. Them boys is hanging up the phone ASAP, expeditiously, immediately, because who the hell is going to give up a first round pick for a guy who has these kind of question marks? If you're a Commanders fan and you want to trade away Chase Young because you think that getting more draft capital is going to put you in a better situation to potentially end up trading up for the number 1 overall pick next year to land Caleb Williams or put you in position to get Drake May, I don't think that's what's going to happen, buddy. I don't think that Chase Young is going to be able to get you a first round pick due to the factors that I just mentioned. If you're a general manager, would you invest the first round pick in trading for Chase Young, considering that you still don't know how good he's going to be stemming from that ACL injury? I mean, we got to be a little bit realistic about this thing. For Washington, I think it would be in their best interest to at least let Chase Young go into this season and let him play out the first half of the year. And if he ends up playing well, then you end up working out a new contract extension for him, because one thing you don't want to do is that if Chase Young ends up bouncing back and performs at a high level, this dude is going to demand a really big salary. And you don't even want to risk that being out there on the open market. And plus, you also have, I believe, Montez Sweat, who is expected to be an upcoming free agent next year. So you're going to have to pay Chase Young, and then maybe you may have to let Montez Sweat walk unless you want to keep him. But you're going to have to franchise Chase Young if he ends up playing well. You might end up having to franchise Montez Sweat if he ends up playing well, if you end up not getting good play out of Chase Young. But if Chase Young doesn't play well the first half of the season, come the trade deadline, it would make more sense to move him then, because regardless, you're not going to get any more compensation for him now than what you would get if you were to move him at the trade deadline. It's just way too many issues. And plus, teams are probably going to be a little bit more turned off if they see him playing. He isn't the same player that he once was his rookie season. Moving Chase Young, I don't think is in the Washington Commanders' best interest. A lot of fans' mindsets are, let's try to get as much value possible for him before his value ends up going down. But regardless of what happens, I mean, you're still not going to get a first round pick in exchange for Chase Young. So what's even the point? What's even the point? Like, you might as well let this guy play the whole entire season and then try to work things out once the season ends. But the Commanders trading Chase Young, I just think is a dumb idea to even be thinking about right now. I still think that this dude is really good. It's just that he's kind of struggled coming back from that ACL injury. Let this man play at least the first half of the season first before we try to pass judgment on what his future should be with the Washington Commanders. And this is a make or break year for Ron Rivera. Like, if this dude ends up not being able to get the Commanders to the postseason this year, Airbnb potentially could end up taking this job at the end of the season. So you need all the help that you can get. You need all hands on deck this season. And trading away Chase Young definitely gives you a better chance at making it to the postseason if this guy ends up being the player that you knew he was when he was coming out of Ohio State. The last thing you want to do if you're the Washington Commanders is move away from Chase Young way too early. You trade him to another team and you don't get a first round pick for him, and this dude ends up becoming an elite player and an all-pro player and an all-time great. That's the last thing that you want to happen if you're the Washington Commanders. A lot of the fans don't have a lot of patience. And when it comes to being a general manager in the NFL, you got to know when to hold them and you got to know when to fold them. And right now, if you're the Commanders organization, you need to hold on to Chase Young. this isn't really a good time to be thinking about trading away Chase Young because you still don't know what he is as a player right now. His rookie season was impressive, but he hasn't really had too much development because of that injury. And even when he was on the field in 2020 or 2021, before he got injured, he still wasn't all that impressive. So we don't know what the hell happened. There's a lot of reasons we can say why his play kind of dropped off before he suffered that injury. But regardless, this is still a player that has a lot of upside. You decline his fifth-year option, I don't think you're going to be losing anything by holding on to Chase Young, at least to the trade deadline of this year. If you're the Commanders, trading away Chase Young, I think right now will be a huge mistake.